Hello, and welcome back to the ElevateU podcast. We're so excited to have you here. And today we are going to talk about the guilt of putting yourself first. So, this shows up really in all circumstances when it comes to work, when it comes to relationships. But it's so important to put yourself first, not just so that you can show up as the best version of yourself, but also truly just for your sanity.
Yes, I love that you said that, Irene. And just to level set us all on this subject, what does putting yourself first mean via the internet? Well, they say that by putting yourself first, it means being as kind to yourself as you are to others. It means taking care of yourself so you can be more productive and organized and a better person in general. It means just loving yourself a little more, and that's not selfish, it's necessary. So in this episode, we're going to talk about where this has come up in our lives, but also give tips on how to not see this as selfish.
Yeah, I love the part about being as kind to yourself as you are to others. And I think that we forget about that a lot. I mean, I could say so for myself. And when you think about being kind to yourself, it really puts into perspective how would you treat another person, and you should treat that person, which is you, in that same way. It's so important. And this showed up a lot for me when I was working my 9 to 5 and when I was a boss, and thinking that the more you work, the more you're there for your team is the best way to be a boss. And I felt like working hard was always the solution, but it was actually counterintuitive because truly, if you're working so hard and not showing up in a great mood, or you're exhausted, and the quality in which you're engaging with people, the quality in which you're doing your job, if it's not at the highest performance, then it really is not benefiting anyone. So before, I would wake up early and not take care of myself. I would wake up early to get to work first and to be the first one there. And it was so funny because my mom told me once, she said that, I read, nobody wants to see their boss first thing in the morning,
So true.
and you want to show up to work and you want to breathe a little bit. And it really put into perspective that, yeah, I feel that I'm supporting my team, but maybe that's not what they want or need. And it really came full circle to me when I would work 9 days in a row. I would just grind. I would be at work sometimes for 12, 16 hours thinking, oh, I'm being such a supportive, great boss, being there for my team. And I got exhausted, and I would find myself just snapping at people. I could feel myself just grumpy, and I would have to go to the bathroom and just take a break and just take a deep breath and tell myself, oh my gosh, Irene, you just need a day off,
Oh, yeah.
And when I would take that time for myself, whether to rest or have fun,
Mhm.
I remember just coming back to work so energized and rejuvenated and excited that I had some fun. And I just felt the energy shift within my team and within my store from that. And it made me realize that you shouldn't feel guilty for taking time for yourself. You should truly feel guilty by creating a negative environment for your team or for your family by not taking care of yourself,
Right.
because the repercussions that they have to encounter because you don't take care of yourself, that is what you should feel guilty about.
That's so good, but I can totally see where you're coming from of being the hardest team player, and thinking that that's what's going to help because by showing that you're committed and that you're dedicated and you are, no matter what, always going to be there at work for your people, you think that you're helping, but it does take a hard look, more empathetically, looking at yourself and how that might be coming off to the team as actually not helpful. So I actually wrote down what your mom said, because she keeps popping up all the time. You're so wise, Mrs. Jung. And it's very true that when I was an employee, because I'm a boss now too, but when I was an employee, I hated going into work when my boss was always there. And I immediately felt like I was behind the eight ball. I wasn't able to be at the same performance level like them. And that was just, it's not a healthy environment for any employees. So I definitely take in what Mrs. Young said, and your lessons learned, to just not be like that as a boss too. But to kind of move into maybe when it comes to family, because we were going to reflect on how it shows up in a lot of different aspects of your life. When we were talking in episode 1, which was about being overachievers, so listen to that if you haven't heard it yet. But a lot of people struggle just using joy as the measurement of success, or the measurement of what is a healthy area to be in life. And so a lot of people that were like us and overachievers and don't really put joy as the primary goal, they probably need to work on also seeing self-care as important, which is lessons you and I both learned over the years. So I know it was more natural for me to put myself first when I was single. I mean, it's actually not even something you think about, because you're just taking care of yourself. But when I became a wife, and truly when I became a mom, unfortunately, I put myself really low on that priority list. I mean, with the responsibilities and the new title, I changed how I felt about myself and kind of put all of my emotions and focus and energy into being there for my family, for my son. And what was healthy for me really went to the wayside. Even you hear new parents saying that they haven't even taken a shower, in like days, because they're just so focused on the new family member. So it's negative outcomes include things like just being irritable, falling apart at the smallest things, being unable to handle stressors, having a pessimistic attitude. I definitely know I was like that as a new mom, not taking care of myself. And then it can lead to what you've experienced: illness, fatigue, maybe poor sleep, maybe just even an inability to be able to think clearly. All of these things can relate from you not taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah. And this reminds me of something my sister and I were talking about, because I'm not a mom, but I'm an auntie, and my sister has two little ones. My nephews are 5 and 3. So as you can imagine, there's a lot going on.
Yes.
And my sister was talking about the difference between when she wakes up before the kids, and even if it's just 15-30 minutes to herself, quiet time, whether that's meditating or doing something for herself to set herself up for success for the rest of the day, mentally and physically. And she notices the difference in which she reacts and interacts with her kids, right? Because I mean, I've taken care of my nephews for weeks at a time and spent 10 plus hours with them, and I totally get it. If you're tired and you're frustrated, it's so easy to not react in the most positive way. And my sister was talking about how she never skips her skincare routine ever, right?
That's good.
And her reasoning behind it was because she feels like if she skipped a day, then there would be repercussions on her skin, right?
That she could visibly see.
Yeah,
Okay,
that she
makes
could
sense.
visually see. But the reason why she said she skipped her self-care as far as meditating or getting her mindset right was because she couldn't physically see the repercussions of it. But we talked about how even if she couldn't physically see it, the actual damage that it's doing is something that you can't take back, right?
That's true.
Because your children keep these experiences that they have growing up, whether they can't physically remember it in the future, but they subconsciously can remember it. So environment, you're creating an environment where the interactions could make permanent
Yes.
damage on your children in the future. So when she really shifted her mindset in realizing that, it really shifted how she was consistent now to really make that time in the morning for self-care because she can see how.
I really like your sister's progression through understanding from seeing something physical based on her lack of self care, and then realizing that doing something for her more mindset wise and how she's coming to the relationships. That's really huge because I think a lot of us are so much more sold on the fact of things that we can actually see
Mhm.
versus you're sometimes blinded by thinking that you're being the best for other people because you're constantly there and putting them and their priorities first versus your own, but you can't tell how you're coming across to someone, how you're communicating, or even just your demeanor or just your energy. People can read, and
Mhm.
kids can really read that.
Yeah.
So what other examples do you have of just putting yourself first when it comes to like relationships, not just children?
Yeah, I think just putting yourself first when it comes to relationships. I mean, I think about my boyfriend and I and how we love spending time together. We love having our date nights. It's something that we both cherish and value so much, but we truly spend a lot of time just taking care of ourselves, and whether that's resting after work and just having time where we're just, even if we want to hang out, because I mean, if you are happy in a relationship, you just always want to see that
Right,
person,
right.
but at the same time we really do make those boundaries for ourselves. Whereas if, for example, we have to choose between, going to see each other and one of us isn't feeling well or one of us is just exhausted from work, we tell the other person, no, you need to take care of yourself. Your health is your number one priority. And,
That's so
you know,
good.
yeah, and it really creates a great dynamic in the relationship because we're not just hanging out to hang out. If you're exhausted, if you're not feeling well, if you're not there 100%, then the mere act of hanging out or having date night, it's not a positive environment,
Mhm.
So I think it's more important to have the quality time together rather than the quantity time together. And that's truly helped us in our relationship so much. And when everyone really talks about being whole by yourself and then, adding
Yes,
somebody else,
yes,
I think that's so true
it is.
because if you're not whole by yourself, you're constantly reaching and seeking to either other people or other things to fill your cup, and you're not going to find it,
Oh, that's right.
and I think that it's so important, whether it's being whole and doing your self-care, if even if that means that you want a hobby or if you want to take on a new project or something for you to feel content by
Mhm.
yourself, I think is so important. And then also too, then bringing it together and feeling content and doing things together, I think it's just a great balance of both.
Absolutely. I love that. And sometimes, I mean, I'm married, so we live together, but I could
Mhm.
definitely see the benefits of not having to share the same space. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of a want for us in the
Mhm.
future is a place, a bigger home so that he could have his space and I can have my own space
Mhm.
too, or even like a garden, or it's just something to kind of be
Mhm.
able to feel like you can get away from each other so that you can feel more rejuvenated as
Mhm.
individuals. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think about that too, because I think about the dynamic in which if my boyfriend and I were to live together and how it would be. And I think about how even if you live in close quarters, it's almost like if you had a code word or something where you kind of communicate to the person, like, hey, I just need an hour to myself, whether that's just to relax on the sofa and not talk to anyone,
Mhm.
or whether that's to watch TV by myself and just be alone, because you're at work around all these people all day. And then to come home and to do the same thing. And even if you just need that time of silence, then you can hop back into engaging with each other
Yeah.
rather than just kind of going through the motions when you're just exhausted. I think is so huge. And even if you don't have an hour, even if that looks like 15 minutes,
Mhm.
just taking that time to breathe, I think is so important. And I remember even too, waking up early and now having more of a morning routine and being able to get myself in a positive energy, thinking about those days and showing up to work so positively, and whether that's showing up to work or showing up for meeting a friend or your boyfriend, I think that just knowing how much you can shift the environment, I think about those days, and we've had the best days where we're just laughing, having a great time, getting our work done. But I just noticed so much of a difference rather than me just waking up early, just getting ready, doing nothing really for myself
Mhm.
besides getting dressed, of course, and getting to work. I just remember just showing up just so empty.
Yeah, and I think too, when you are empty like that, you are almost looking for either other people or outside circumstances to
Mhm.
make you feel better, make you
Mhm.
feel like doing something
Yeah.
too. And that's not great for people around you
Mhm.
because then you're just pulling. You're trying
Mhm.
to pull from them, and what they're getting from you
Mhm.
generally is kind of
Yeah.
negative energy.
And it's all temporary vices, I think. For example, if you don't have energy, so you have to drink coffee, the
Oh
caffeine's
yeah,
going to wear off. Or if you,
sugar.
yeah, or if you couldn't get your coffee that morning, and then now, oh man, everybody is just dealing with the repercussions of
Watch
you
out for
not being
Irene. She didn't
caffeinated.
have her coffee.
So yeah, I just think that I completely understand how we have that guilt, but I think just being able to shift your mindset and understand the opposite end of it,
Yes. Yes.
I think is so important. And I know even for me, when I was growing up and seeing my mom, and she was nonstop and she did such an incredible job. I admire her for all of her hard work, but seeing how exhausted she was every day, I really just wished that she could just take some time for herself.
Yeah.
It would have made me so happy for her to be able to relax and really fill her cup. And then also, too, I felt the repercussions of her being grumpy or yelling, and I would have rather have done less in a day or just with experiences, just to have my mom to be able to have some,
Quality time.
yeah, just with her, and to be happy, because I
Right.
think that, she did so much for us, but it would have made me happy to see her happy.
That resonates so much too. As you described your mom or just what you wish, that is how I have understood my more recent uh dealings with with Enrique, with my husband. And we've had these conversations about this
Mhm.
too, because we've been together for a long time, 17 years, I think. And so
Mhm.
we've grown up together as individuals, we've grown together as a couple, which I think is just the ideal structure, really.
Mhm.
And what I've learned in the past couple of years, simply because I've been doing more personal development, which includes reading, but then talking with people either in book clubs or other people
Mhm.
that read about personal development and just reflecting on its impact to us. After learning how when your cup is empty, when you aren't doing anything for yourself, you can show up as like a shell of a person.
Mhm.
And my husband and I've just been really focused on work, of course, building our family. And I've noticed both of us
Mhm.
just coming to the table pretty empty.
Mhm.
And like what I was saying, where you can feel that energy, whether they're saying something negative or not, you can just feel it.
Mhm.
And so lately we've been working on well, what do you need? And we've determined that he does need a hobby, and he got a hobby. He vlogs and he loves it. He just feels creative and rejuvenated every time he gets the opportunity to work on that. And then he also fills his cup with being with other friends. Whereas me, I don't necessarily need to be with other friends, but I fill my cup by, similar to what your sister was talking about and what I know you do, which are miracle mornings. And it's getting up earlier than anyone else in the house, getting some exercise in, taking 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have in the morning to just read either affirmations or positive development books, maybe even journaling, and just being reflective. After that, I feel so good. And I think you've described it as not just filling your cup, but overflowing your cup, right? Like that's I think a way to kind of reframe our mindsets on how this stuff is beneficial, not just for you, but for people around you, right?
Yes, I definitely agree. So I think the moral of the story is to take care of yourself first, because it's not just helping yourself, it's helping the people around you by showing up in a more positive way.
Right.
So we are so excited to have you here and joining our podcast. And we would love to hear your feedback, and we would love to connect with you. So if you can, okay, cancel. Okay.
I just realized we need a visual cue for myself. Okay, now I'm doing one.
Okay. So, what do I say?
So I was just talking about like reframing your mindset.
Yeah.
So why don't you go into a little bit more about, and say it one more time, about how self-care isn't selfish and showing up for other people is beneficial. And then you could say about, this has been a great conversation. If you have any comments about this episode, you can find us on Irene Media Project. And then I'll say, Becca, we'd love to hear from you on future subjects. Thank you so much, and talk to you soon.
So the moral of the story is to take care of yourself and don't feel guilty for putting yourself first, because putting yourself first truly is putting others first by the way you show up for them. So we are so happy that you're here listening to our podcast with us. We will see you all next week. And if a message resonated with you, please be sure to comment or message us on Instagram. You can find me on Irene Media Project.
You can find me at Becca Manhow. We'd love to hear from you too on any future subjects you'd like to hear us talk about. Thank you all so much, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.